boom, 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 boom. Motherfucker, it's the machine. Yeah. I told you we trailmatic. Organized crime. Part 2. Let's turn this shit the fuck up. Make sure to take me out the game. It's nothing, no. 3 shots couldn't drop me. I took it a smile. You know what I mean? Got hit twice in the neck. Graves in the head. They overlooking my accomplishments and don't want to acknowledge it, won't let it shake my confidence. How when I've been sitting on the game since I gotten it, not only that, my story alone is astonishing. I got murals in different continents, this shit is looking promising. Hip hop about to experience a climate shift.
Conway the Machine, a man who has persevered through a lot of things in his life to become the man that he is today. Whether it's surviving the rough streets of Buffalo or surviving getting shot multiple times, which resulted in wounds that will leave him paralyzed on the right side of his face. These circumstances didn't deter Conway from living out his dreams and putting his hometown on the map. He's regarded as one of the most underrated rappers out there, and definitely probably the most underrated amongst like the trio of him, Westside Gunn, and Benny the Butcher. But before I get more into the video, I would first like to thank you guys for coming to see this, because you guys could be doing a million other things right now, but instead you're here with me and I appreciate that. If you guys like the content, you guys should like, comment, and subscribe to help the channel grow. Also, follow my Instagram too, that would be greatly appreciated. Comment down below your favorite Conway song, favorite verse, lyric, album, EP, whatever. I definitely want to see like what you guys think, and I definitely want to say that my prayers go out to everybody in Buffalo with this recent tragedy that just occurred. But yeah, I know that there's a lot of people that support me from Buffalo, so like I said, you guys are in my prayers, stuff like that. But without further ado, I give you Conway the Machine, Pray for Buffalo documentary. Conway the Machine was born in Buffalo, New York in February of 1982. Now in my video about Benny the Butcher, I had people in my comments talking about the validity of Benny, Conway, and Westside Gunn being related. Now I'm not going to get into all that, and I am saying what they have all said about each other, but Westside Gunn refers to Conway as his brother / half brother, and they refer to Benny as their cousin. This is what they say, so don't come for me. Like, this is what they say about each other. But anyways, if you watched my past 2 videos on Benny and Westside, then you would already know how bad the streets of Buffalo can be. Now, like I said in my video with Benny, the city of Buffalo isn't all bad. Not at all. But just like a lot of cities, it does have its bad parts, and the city does have a lengthy past when it comes to things like the mob and violence throughout the years. But this is the backdrop that Conway will grow up in. Conway has described Buffalo to be like any other ghetto or inner city, and something that Conway, Westside, and Benny have all pointed out was the lack of opportunities that they had in Buffalo, especially when it comes to music. When people think of New York, they naturally probably think of New York City, and New York City, as we know, is the mecca of hip-hop and rap culture. Compare this to Buffalo, who prior to Griselda had little to no rap scene that was causing major noise. About this, Conway would say, "We come from the bottom up here in Buffalo. No one ever gave us the opportunity. Not even our local radio stations play our local music. The newspaper and the local publications don't even talk about local up and coming artists. People don't even dream here. People don't even have a dream here. We just want to get it how we can get it now. Everybody do. Everybody is frustrated with their own situation and their own stuff they're going through. So that's why my music come off aggressive, because I don't want to lose. I don't want this opportunity to slip. Nobody ever came from Buffalo, New York musically and made it where he had a distribution deal or even any type of deal. It's like Rick James, that was 30 something years ago. People go through nothing. But going back to Conway's childhood and adolescent years, and just like his relatives, Conway would get involved in the street life at an early age. Conway would say it was around 11 or 12 that he started getting into fights, robbing people, and breaking into cars and stuff like that. As the years went by, the crimes got more serious. It would be around the age of 15 or 16 when Conway realized that he was actually good at rapping. Conway had actually started rapping all the way back when he was around 8, and he grew up loving artists like Run DMC, Big Daddy Kane, Ice Cube, and NWA. And you know, we all know that he's from the East Coast, but Conway has said that he grew up loving West Coast music. Conway's first rap name would be Loose Cannon, and then he went by Killer Angel. The Killer Angel name was inspired by the Wu-Tang Clan, and Conway considers himself to be a big Wu head, especially back then. Throughout the years, Conway would get deeper into the streets, and that would lead to numerous arrests. He got caught with a pistol at the age of 16, but the big one during this time period is when he got arrested for possession of a pistol again and got out around 2005. He ultimately did around 2 years, but by this time in 2005, Conway was already trying to make a name for himself with rapping. He was just going by the name Kannon at the time with the K. I don't know a lot of stuff about his super early discography, and a lot of people are in the same boat. I do know that Conway was with Street Entertainment and Buff City in his early years, and Conway has said that after he got out of jail is when he started working with DJ Shay, who is a vital part of Griselda's history and plays a part in the backstory of Conway, Westside, and Benny. Also, when Conway got out of jail is when he started taking rap serious, but he still had one foot in the music and one foot in the street. One thing that I do know about this time period is that Conway does appear on the Westside Gunn Flyest in Charge, which released around 2004-2005. Conway actually has a track entitled Kannon Exclusive on that project where he raps over the instrumental to Eminem's song Stand. 2006 would be a devastating year for Benny, Westside, and Conway. This is the year that Benny's older brother Machine Gun Blakk was murdered, and this greatly affected all of them. I think that both Benny and Westside might have been locked up at this time when this happened. I know for a fact Benny was locked up in Ashland, Kentucky when Machine Gun died and had about 150 days left to serve and ended up missing his brother's funeral. Westside Gunn would be locked up a couple of months after the Flyest in Charge project dropped and was sent to prison for 2 years after pleading guilty to a weapons charge, so I think that he was locked up as well. Conway was on the streets and he details the death of Machine Gun on the song The Cow, which we'll get into later. Benny would also talk about the death of his brother on the song Langfield off of his project Tana Talk 3. There's no doubt that if Machine Gun was alive today, he would be a part of what Griselda is now. But now with Conway taking music seriously, he released project after project in the early years. I'm not really going to cover too much of the time period between 2007 and 2010 because I would just be listing off mixtapes, but this is the time period where Conway would also go by Jimmy Conway and then just simply by Conway later on. Hearing the music from these years is definitely a trip because I'm so used to how Conway sounds now and not really used to how he sounded before he was shot. Even looking at footage of him during this time period is a trip to me just to see him like that. For reference of what he sounded like before he was shot, here's a clip of a song.
I lead a nigga land stiff on the gravel. Shots of pillars top like the skin on the apple. Yeah. You see what I mean when I travel. I hop out of them drops like a Mitch on the avenue. New York State of murder, this is the capital. The city of buff, I'm bringing it back to you.
During this early 2010s period is when Conway began to build up steam. Unfortunately though, this steam would be halted in 2012. At this time around 2012, Conway wasn't living in Buffalo and was living in Atlanta. The reason why he went back to Buffalo was to promote his recently released mixtape, which was American Greed. He went to the mom and pop stores to promote it along with other things, but after a night out at the club, things would take a dark turn. While in a car, somebody pulled up on Conway and Conway was shot in the back of the head, neck, and shoulder. These wounds would ultimately leave Conway paralyzed on the right side of his face. I thought I was going to be paralyzed from the neck down according to the doctor. I was told I wasn't going to walk again, that I was going to be paralyzed from the neck down. That's the first thing I thought and was crying about. Like, I did all this effing work. There are all these people counting on me and depending on me, telling me I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna be the one to finally put the city on the map. And these dudes gonna put me out? Man. That stuff was frustrating and depressing. I cried a lot, but you know, I don't know, man. God, man, that's all I can think of. For some reason, I was just blessed to get out of that wheelchair, and here I am today. I immediately thought, it's over for me rapping again. I'll never rap again. This was a very emotional time period for Conway due to everything that was happening to him because he was shot. It really affected his mental health. He was very down on himself and he deviated when he got shot because of how his face looked. He just got into the shell and was just really going through it emotionally with everything going on. He didn't want to come out of the house or come out of his room because he thought people was just going to look at him crazy. According to Westside Gunn, if Conway never got shot, then there would be no Westside Gunn as a rapper. Westside Gunn felt the urge to rap in order to motivate his brother to not give up on his own career. Westside had this to say in an interview. Even though he's my brother and he's a dope MC, he's a competitor. He's going to listen to my stuff and be like, okay, this is how bro coming, I gotta come like this now. So for him to hear me and hear me doing what I'm doing, I think that was a big inspiration for him to be like, no, I gotta get my stuff together. What's interesting is that while Conway was recovering from his injuries, he didn't know that Westside was making moves, and one of the things that Westside Gunn would do is drop the first installment of his controversially titled series, Hitler Wears Hermes, in October of 2012. This is also noteworthy because the first Hitler Wears Hermes is also where Derringer came back in the mix musically with Westside Gunn, and we would see that also have effect on Benny and Conway. This will complete the first half of the video where I covered the early backstory of Conway all the way up to when he got shot. In the second half of the video, I will cover his recovery all the way until today. Instead of going to the hospital for physical therapy, Conway would instead go to the studio, and that was his therapy. He was trying to get back on track. This would lead to the release of Conway's mixtape, Physical Therapy, which released in 2014. The cover art for this project is the actual x-ray of when he got shot. The big white thing in the picture is a bullet because he got shot in the back of the head, neck, and shoulder, and the bullet on the cover is lodged in his throat, which actually happened. As you can see on the cover, the bullet was really close to his voice box, and that could have ended everything for Conway. The bullet was stuck in his neck for about a year. This tape was Conway really getting his feet wet again with rapping, and making this tape was really emotional for Conway. While making the track To the Sky, he was crying, and this is like a really emotional track. You gotta listen to it yourself if you haven't. I would really call the year 2014 for Conway to be the quiet before the storm because he really made a name for himself in 2015. At the beginning of 2015, Conway would release The Devil's Reject. The tape The Devil's Reject was titled after the Rob Zombie movie The Devil's Reject, which was released in 2005, and the cover art is the character Captain Spaulding from the movie. He would keep the momentum up by dropping Griselda Ghost with Westside Gunn, and the project was produced by Big Ghost Limited. Just like the Reject series, I really like this mixtape a lot, and the song Empire off of that tape goes crazy. Conway and Westside Gunn would link up again months later with the release of their mixtape as a duo with Hall and Nash, which is like named after the famous wrestlers Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. So big rest in peace out there to Scott Hall. Finally, Conway would cap off his 2015 with the release of Reject 2, and this is regarded as one of Conway's best projects, and it is for good reason. One of the things that instantly stands out is the cover, and it shows the damage that the bullets did to Conway's body. I think that the cover is also supposed to be a nod to the famous picture of like a slave's back, but I can't remember where I heard that from. but just take that for like with a grain of salt. But I think that if I can remember, somebody said that Westside Gunn, I don't really know. But Reject 2 would be entirely produced by Derringer. And like I mentioned earlier, Conway would meet Derringer through Westside. When Conway started rapping again after the shooting, he couldn't really pronounce things as well as he wanted to due to his Bell's palsy. He was just starting to get his jaw back functioning somewhat, so a lot of the words were kind of hard for him to pronounce when he like rapped on more up-tempo kind of beats like his songs Overdose and Juvenile Hell. So Derringer thought of the idea like of slowing down the beats and having Conway just rap over a slow beat with just hard drums or just a raw sample or a rock sample. We would see this on Reject 2, and it was definitely a smart idea for sure. Project wise, there wasn't like a lot of things going on for Conway in 2016, but he did drop a collab EP with Prodigy and Mobb Deep. Big rest in peace to Prodigy, and the EP was called Hell Still on Earth, which was a reference to Hell on Earth, which is the name of a Mobb Deep album. Meeting and also getting the stamp of approval from Prodigy was a big deal because Prodigy is highly regarded as one of the greatest ever in the rap game, and when Conway first met Prodigy, he was starstruck. To hear that a rap legend like Prodigy was messing with his music really meant a lot, and it's unfortunate that the next year in 2017, Prodigy would pass away. But since we're still in 2016, we would see Westside Gunn release the 4th installment of his Hitler Wears Hermes series, and Conway would feature on the song The Cow. And I know I mentioned this song in pretty much all of the videos I've done on Griselda, or it's like its members, but this song right here is a masterpiece. If you haven't listened to The Cow, then I definitely suggest that you go do it right now and then come back. This song is as real as it gets, and you can feel the emotion of what Conway is saying. The intro of the song is a skit where a man is talking about how it's good to let your anger out and let love in. Instead of smacking someone in the face, it's better to put your anger on a picture because it's safer. Conway starts off his verse by saying free his homies and rest in peace for all his people in the sky. Conway details how far he has come from Buffalo to doing records with rap legends like Kool G Rap. He also raps about how the feds gave 15 years to his cousin Tito, and how when he came home from 2 years being locked up, he gave him an ounce in Iraq and told Conway he doesn't owe him anything besides putting the city on the map. This happened 11 years before this song was released, and now in 2016, Conway feels like he's doing just that. Now the next part of the song is really sad because it goes into some dark stuff. Conway raps about the death of Sheen Gun and how much he cried. He details how he pulled up to the crime scene and seen the yellow tape, and at that moment he wanted revenge and was ready to go crazy in the streets. If Conway did this, I probably wouldn't even be making this video right now, but the thing that hurt the most was that Conway never found out who killed Sheen Gun. Even though Conway isn't that religious, he looks at him not getting revenge for Sheen Gun as a sign that maybe God didn't want him to kill somebody and get time for it, and maybe he wanted Conway to, in his words, kill people with his rhymes. About 10 years after the death of Sheen Gun, while making The Cow, Conway might cry to this song and pop a spade cork and tell Machine Gun that they did it. Who would have thought that Griselda would have blown up? Some dudes from Buffalo would get this big in the rap game. Conway details how he needed Westside Gunn and Derringer because he couldn't do it alone. In the next part of his verse, Conway details him being shot. He said that he should have died, and his friend Dunce kept him alive by slapping his face and shaking his head. Conway then says that he wrote this verse with the tears in his eyes. Due to Conway getting shot, he wanted to quit rapping because he looked at his face and wanted to be done. He was trying to spit his verses, but he was mumbling through it. His face was twisted up, and his Bell's palsy had him looking like he had a stroke. Conway says that this is the realest stuff that he's ever wrote. What a song, man, and this song really shifted a lot of people into Conway being their favorite between Benny and Westside. In 2016, Griselda will also drop their debut EP, Don't Get Scared Now. 2017 would be a huge year for Conway because at the top of the year, Conway and Westside Gunn would sign to Shady Records. About the deal, Conway would say, "Everything that we doing and getting accomplished, we are making a lot of people proud out there in Buffalo. This is like winning the Super Bowl for Buffalo right now. Me and Westside Gunn signing to Shady. I'm just going to continue to do what got me here. With Paula M behind me, you know, the sky is the limit, I believe. That's why I did the deal. I feel like dudes was already off and running. I was my own entity and I really laid my ground, paved my way with my bars, with the stuff I'm spitting, the music I'm putting out, a lot of freestyles I've been killing and all that. My mind state going into it was I'm just going to keep doing what got me to this point and to let them work their magic and do what they do best. This was a huge deal for Conway and he definitely kept the work going. Him and Westside were actually making their pitches for XXL this year, and something that I guess I never really looked into was their actual pitches. While doing research for this video is when I saw their pitches for the first time, and it's so crazy how some people were so disrespectful to Conway specifically in the comments of the video. People were calling him trash, making fun of his face, and I heard that the like to dislike on this video, the ratio was insane before YouTube obviously hid the dislikes. I do think that some of this could be due to people really wanting XXXTentacion to be on the cover, but it's just really crazy seeing how people was looking at Conway back in 2017. We know that Conway and Westside Gunn didn't make the list, and Benny was offered the list years later but turned it down as he should have. But some people in that 2017 XXL list were hot when the list came out, but now in 2022 not so much. The only ones who still hot, I would say really hot, is probably Cardi and A Boogie. Amine is doing his thing and he's a great artist. I mean, Made in Tokyo is, he's doing his thing, and we know that X passed away. Shortly after signing with Shady, Conway would release Reject on Steroids with DJ Green Lantern, and this is up there with my favorite Conway mixtapes. Conway would follow this up with more Steroids, which was released later that year and is another great project you should go check out. We would also see the release of the project GOAT this year, which stands for Grimiest of All Time, and Conway was referring to this as one of the best projects that he's ever done at this time. 2018 would roll around and Conway releases a lot of stuff this year. He would release the project Blakk Tape and said that this project was specifically for the streets. He would also start another series with Everybody Is Food and Everybody Is Food 2 Eat What You Kill, with both of them releasing in 2018. The interesting thing about the cover art for these projects is that they have Robert De Niro on them. Conway used to rap under the name Jimmy Conway, which was inspired by James Conway, who Robert De Niro portrayed in the movie Goodfellas. The machine part came from how Conway is in the studio and how he works and records. In 2018, we would see the release of Death by Misadventure, in which Conway collabed with the producer / rapper Sony Jim, and also Untitled Drums EP with Imported Goods. In 2019, at the start, we would see the release of Everybody Is Food 3. Conway would actually make this project in 2 days because he was bored, and also to show people that he's the illest, and the project came out effortlessly incredible. Around this time, the project Organized Grime was also released with Traumatic. Later on in the year, Conway would drop Look What I Became, and the cover art for this project is when Conway was in the hospital recovering from being shot. Shortly after the release of Look What I Became, we would see the release of Griselda's debut album, WWCD, which stands for What Would Sheen Gun Do, which as we know is in dedication to their fallen family member, Sheen Gun. This project would really elevate Griselda and bring them a lot of newfound exposure. I mean, they were getting so many cosigns, and their song Dr. Birds off of that project garnered them a lot of attention. I mean, the music video for that song was directed and produced by the legendary Hype Williams. The group was having success, and in the middle of this success, people were clamoring for a debut album from Conway himself. Look What I Became was supposed to be sort of like a prelude to it. When asked about the decision to make Griselda's debut on Shady a group effort, Conway responded that it was the group's decision and they really wanted to build some momentum up for the God Don't Make Mistakes album. Also in 2019, we would see Westside Gunn and Benny the Butcher join Roc Nation. While Conway, at the start of this recording, isn't a part of Roc Nation, he still has a relationship with Jay-Z, and if you've seen videos between them two, you can see the respect and admiration that they have for each other, and they actually have a record together now with Jadakiss. But back to Conway's solo debut on Shady, and that didn't come until 2022, with the release of From King to a God. This sadly came around the time of DJ Shay's death, so big rest in peace to him, and if you've watched like my videos on Benny and Westside, you would know how vital he was to all of them in their progression. But back to From King to a God, and when Conway started recording this album, he felt like he hadn't reached his full potential, and he still hasn't. Conway was feeling underappreciated and slighted when it came to some of the stuff he was spitting and making. He had the song Lemon with Method Man on this album that I really mess with that song, and with From King to a God, Conway really wanted to show growth and how much he's grown as an artist and how much he's grown as a man. He wanted to showcase versatility and show people that he's not a one-trick pony. He also commented that this would be the perfect appetizer to get his fans ready for his Shady Records debut, God Don't Make Mistakes. No One Mourns the Wicked with Big Ghost would also release this year as well. We would also see the release of Lulu, which was produced by Alchemist. Alchemist is another guy alongside someone like Derringer who has helped craft Conway's sound and is very important to his story as well. At the top of 2021, Conway would double back with Big Ghost and would release If It Bleeds, It Can Be Killed. Not that long after, we would see the release of La Máquina, which translates from Spanish and means the machine. This project contains Conway's most popular song, which is Scatterbrain, and features Ludacris and JID. This brings us to 2022, and Conway would finally release God Don't Make Mistakes. Since initially teasing the album, Conway had gained a lot of new fans and wanted this album to be an introduction to him. He felt like he needed to talk about himself more on this album, and that was tough for him initially. He's usually more bottled up and keeps his personal stuff and shortcomings in life to himself, but this was the album for him to finally open up. For instance, on the track Guilty, Conway details being shot and how he looks at the situation as being a gift instead of a curse. In an interview with Billboard, Conway questions if he would be as popular if the shooting never happened. Like I said earlier, there was a lot that happened as a result of Conway getting shot because Westside wouldn't have started rapping and Westside got popping in the underground, which eventually led to all of them getting on. Then on a song like Stressed, Conway raps about the loss of his son, alcoholism, the pressures of fame, etc. This song is just like really sad, man, and it's really Conway opening up, and it's just a lot. I definitely recommend to give it a listen if you haven't. One of the last things that I want to mention is that like this thing that's going on with Conway and like Griselda, Conway has admitted that he didn't read his contract when he signed like a lot of artists do. So now going forward, it's time to redo all of this and make sure that like it's in Conway's favor now. He also noted that he'll still like wave the Griselda flag regardless, and that him and Westside Gunn can figure something out, which he was sure that they would. Since then, they have made appearances together and have done shows together since these comments. Another thing I want to touch on was Conway's relationship with Eminem, and as I said earlier, Conway and Westside Gunn was signed to Shady Records, and actually Conway and Westside were initially just looking for management, but then it turned into a record deal. Conway describes this deal as a power move, and it was a step into getting more exposure. Conway did actually end up with the song with Eminem on it, which is called Bang, and it's fire. Definitely give it a listen. There was some controversy of Conway calling Eminem's fans nerds and stans and said that they didn't understand him and what he brings to the table. He has since apologized for these comments though. People have questioned how close of a relationship Conway has with Eminem, and in a freestyle over Kanye West's song Jail, Conway actually said one could say that his relationship is better with Kanye rather than with Eminem, but he still ain't have anything bad to say about Eminem and that he's thankful for Eminem. In 2022, Conway would also say that he's now a free agent and is no longer with Shady Records. There's a couple of other projects that I would like to mention, and that's Hello Earthlings, Organized Grime 2, The Missing Bricks, 50 Round Drum, etc. This dude just has so much material out there, it's just insane. 50 Round Drum alone is a 50-track compilation mixtape, and it is insane. I feel like I covered a good amount of Conway's career. I took you through his childhood, early career, him getting shot, him blowing up, and where he is today. The fact that Conway is even alive today is a miracle, and him dying in 2012 could have really changed a lot. This man really is a machine. All in all, let me know what you thought of this video in the comment section below. I love you guys with all my heart. Peace.